What's up, Patriots? This is CJ with the Underground Conservatives and the Patriot Nation. We are doing a late broadcast today, and you can catch this, of course, at a later occasion, as many of you do. Wanted to give an update on things. We actually have a number of things going on in the world. We have many who are trying to speculate when World War III will take place and where it will start. That's a good question. Now, I know a lot of us are looking right now at Ukraine. What's up, Ron? Thanks for joining us, buddy. We're doing a late one tonight. If you have any questions, feel free to share those. We're going to be talking about Russia, Ukraine, Sleepy Joe Biden, and Sleepy Joe Biden has a new press secretary we're going to talk about as well. And the left is celebrating her as a first on multiple levels. And some of those firsts are good. Some of them are not so good, as many of us in the United States feel. And we're not quite certain what the Biden administration is trying to do other than possibly distract from his failures. That's right, Joe Biden has had a first year and a half filled with failures. These failures have been anywhere from his mismanagement of COVID lockdowns to his mismanagement of various tensions throughout our country, mismanagement of worldwide global conflicts. And we've seen this take place right now, especially it's being highlighted in Ukraine. And so we're going to actually look at Ukraine as we're going here. Let's take a look here at the latest in Ukraine. And we've got the Russian military, who seems to be preparing for something much larger. We've been told by a number of supposed experts, and these experts are anywhere from retired U.S. generals to different news correspondents at the woke media networks, the MSM networks. And these experts are telling us that Russia is running out of resources. They're running out of fuel. They're running out of ammunition. They're running out of a will to fight. And as I mentioned before, there was a 4-star general who was brought on by one mainstream media network, and he said that Russia had only 11 days left, and they were done. 11 days. You know how many days ago that was? Over 25 days ago. So, obviously, somebody either is extremely wrong in their assessments, or they are being paid to play. That's right, paid to play the game to support Biden's globalist agenda and globalist adventures. And that's what many of us think that it's happening with Ukraine. The westward push of NATO wasn't necessarily to protect the United States. It really was a cloaked idea to protect and grow globalism. That's right, globalism. The spread of a one-world government system, also referred to as cultural imperialism. Yes, the removal of traditional standards, Western standards. These standards are being proposed by the World Economic Forum. They're being embraced wholly by the Biden administration and initially by the Obama administration, who now has a number of retreads. Thank you for joining us. If you have any comments, let us know. A number of retreads that are now in Biden's administration. And what they are doing is trying to export their form of globalism throughout the entire world. And they thought Vladimir Putin was just going to roll over. And not that Vladimir Putin's a great guy. Vladimir Putin is a very dangerous guy at times. But Vladimir Putin is a guy. What's up, John? Thank you for joining us, buddy. Great to see you, man. I've been sick here, so I thought I would get on and do a little update on things. If you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to share those. But basically, Vladimir Putin right now is showing Joe Biden what it means to be a person of resolve. And I'm not glorifying Vladimir. I wouldn't want to live in Russia, to be honest with you. I'm sure most of you would not either. Even though I guess apparently some people like Steven Seagal do live in Russia, who are former Americans or are Americans. I wouldn't want to live there. But at the same time, I'm starting to question who's more dishonest, the Russian government or the Biden administration? Well, the answer is obvious. The Biden administration has lied to us numerous times, has jailed American dissidents, from, what was it, January 6th? Yeah, they're just going to throw them in jail and hold them without proof, hold them without being charged. These are American citizens. No reason, no excuse. It looks like it's political gamesmanship, authoritarianism, good old-fashioned communism 101, all within the confines of the United States of America. So who is more honest and who is more dishonest? You have Russia on the one hand, and you have the Biden administration on the other. Right now, in this case, it looks like Russia has a little bit more of a stake or a claim to protect the westward push of NATO. Is it good for them to go into Ukraine the way they have? I don't support that. I don't support the brutal takeover of any territory alongside one's nation, but at the same time, they saw the weakness of the Biden administration, how they exited from Afghanistan, and they saw it as a time to act. And their desire to act was based on building a buffer around Russia to protect Russia from the spread of NATO eastward and the spread of globalism. Okay, along with globalism, they saw a number of existential threats, things such as gender ambiguity, the abandonment of traditional marriage, the abandonment of national borders around your country. Those are things that we all assumed were part of being a member of a nation. But now, the globalists want us to ignore borders. Vladimir Putin doesn't want to ignore borders. And neither do some of the other countries who believe in sovereignty, such as China, etc. Not that these are great countries, but they are not for globalism. And I'll be honest with you, I know you guys aren't, and I'm not for globalism either. Globalism is, if you thought that big government was bad, globalism is big government on steroids times 10. It would be an absolute mess, and they're already trying to do it. Let's find out what's going on as Russia recasts the fight in Ukraine as a war with the West. And so this is an interesting article from the Wall Street Journal. The article says, Russia recasts fight in Ukraine as a war with the West ahead of Russian May Day holiday. May 9th, Moscow links current conflict to the Soviet defeat of Nazi Germany. So we are coming upon a significant date being May 9th for the Russian people and Russian culture. Troops marched across Red Square in last year's victory parade. This year, Moscow didn't invite foreign leaders for the coming commemoration. So what's happening now? Well, it looks like Moscow is recasting its fight with Ukraine as a broader war between Russia and the West, as Kremlin leaders and state propaganda outlets warn Russians that the conflict with its smaller neighbor could spill over into a global clash. This is from Russia. The Kremlin and state-controlled media have warned in recent days that the West ultimately seeks to contain or even destroy Russia. And they have threatened, that is Russia, retaliation, including the possibility of nuclear strikes. Russia has again mentioned that they are willing to go asymmetrical with this. They feel outnumbered, they feel pressured, they feel bullied. They're trying to be canceled, or they're trying to cancel them. That is the globalist Westerners. And I hate to say it, I'm a Westerner. I love America. Dad was in the military. My father designed helped design the MX Peacekeeper missile to protect the United States against the Soviet Union. So I'm not for Russia over the West, over the United States. Don't get me wrong. I am for freedom and honesty. And those are two qualities we are lacking in the current administration that right now occupies Washington, D.C. Okay, we are lacking honesty and we are lacking ethics. Okay, and so as a result, we need to look at things a little differently, if at the least, maybe temporarily, hopefully. Okay, so in response, the Kremlin has begun priming its population for the possibility of a wider and more extractable conflict. In particular, it is using the May 9th celebration commemorating the Soviet victory over Nazi Germany, a historical touchstone for millions of Russians, to draw parallels between World War II and the conflict in Ukraine. The narrative of Russia as the victim of the West and a need to defend their country has gained new momentum in recent weeks. Interesting. I thought that Russia was running out of unity. I thought that's what CNN was telling us. But apparently Russia isn't running out of unity. Apparently Vladimir Putin just was voted he had like an 82% approval rating. So, before it was like 69%. Now, granted, I'm not saying their polls are exactly accurate because I don't think they are. They're not even accurate here. We know what's happened with polls and the manipulation of polls by the Democrats and the suppression polls by the mainstream media. We know they do that. But we also know this, too, that Vladimir Putin has grown in popularity in Russia. He hasn't lost popularity, as so many on the left in the West have predicted falsely. So, the forces that have always pursued a policy of containing Russia, they say, that's Russia, they do not want a huge and independent country that is too big for their ideas. They're speaking of Russia and its large landmass. Russian President Vladimir Putin said last week they believe it endangers them simply by the fact of his existence, although this is far from reality. It is they who endanger the world, Vladimir Putin said. Well, if you're talking about, Mr. Putin, if you're talking about the spread of globalism, I would say you're right. It is these ambitious, cultural, imperialistic Western leaders who do endanger the world. If they're going to push their new woke agenda around the world, I would say, yes, they do endanger the world. That's an honest point by Vladimir Putin. I have to give him credit for that. Now, he's not always honest. I agree with that. I know that. But in this case, he's looking more honest than Joe Biden. Makes you wonder, huh? What's going on in Washington? Who's really running the show? Is it Joe Biden? Is it Barack Hussein Obama? Is it a bunch of just ambitious, rambunctious advisors? These rogue advisors just running the White House? Is that what's going on? Because it certainly isn't the empty suit named Joe Biden running the show. Joe Biden doesn't know what he's doing. Matter of fact, it's been shown on numerous occasions that Joe Biden, his cognitive abilities cannot be hidden. He is so inefficient, it's absolutely amazing. Even Democrats are turning from Joe Biden. They're starting to go, we would vote for Trump if he had the opportunity to run again. Hopefully that will happen soon, but unfortunately we have to sit out another 2.5 years approximately. Anyways, the article goes on to say, if any other country intervenes in the events and creates strategic threats for Russia that are unacceptable to us, they should know that our retaliatory strikes will be lightning fast. He's referring to the development of their missile. This is the fastest missile in the world. It goes 16,000 miles an hour. No U.S., no NATO missile interceptor system can stop this Russian missile, again, that goes 16,000 miles an hour. It is a hypersonic missile, not a supersonic missile. A supersonic missile exceeds the speed of sound, which is about 750 miles an hour. A hypersonic missile goes multiple times more than the speed of sound. And in this particular case, it goes 16,000 miles an hour. Missile interceptor systems, some of them go, I think, up to about 2,000 to 3,000 miles an hour. So they have found a way to penetrate our missile interceptor systems. This is concerning. So he goes on to say, we believe it endangers them simply by the face of its... Okay, so he goes on to say, they should know that our retaliatory strikes will be lightning fast. Repeating a past warning, Russia has all of the tools for this, such that no one else can boast of. We will use them, he says, if necessary. Okay, so he says they'll use them if necessary. This is what he's talking about. Is he talking about... Well, he is. He's saying this could happen, right? Is he talking about a strategic nuclear attack like this back here? Something like this? Or is he talking more so about that would leave the world intact, more of a tactical nuclear strike? A tactical nuclear strike, guys, you know what that is? That is a nuclear strike with a nuclear warhead that has a low-yield explosion. And so a low-yield explosion is this. Basically, it is something that is contained where you can actually blow up an entire battalion of troops, but you're not necessarily going to blow up an entire city or destroy 3 or 4 cities at once. So Russia has an extensive number of tactical nuclear weapons. And so these tactical nuclear weapons can be transported in and out of the battlefield quickly and efficiently. And the United States actually was going to start producing tactical nuclear weapons again under the initiative of President Donald Trump. But the Biden administration put the brakes on it. So untimely, very strange that they did that. But again, it shows another degree of incompetence. What's up, Andy? Thanks for joining us. Another degree of incompetence by the Biden administration. We should be able to counter tactical nuclear weapons from Russia. But unfortunately, we can't. Because anytime there is the use or potential use of warheads and of bombings and what have you, and if there's an initiation by one country, you want to try to counter that in a measurable manner, a manner that is similar, that's comparable. So if they use tactical nuclear weapons, I mean, first of all, it's not even our country. We probably wouldn't or shouldn't get involved, but who knows with Joe, and who knows with some of these guys, Lindsey Graham, who wants to assassinate Putin, apparently. Kind of strange and kind of reckless, extremely reckless. He's the head of a state. Okay, we're not dealing with a Islamic terrorist state. We're dealing with Russia, who was a former U.S. ally during World War II. Not, again, a perfect country, but a country that is well acclaimed, well established, and nuclear armed to the teeth. We need to respect that. So, you've got the Russian military who's been hitting a number of snags with their conventional forces in Ukraine, but what they miss in terms of their conventional efficiency, they have made up, and they're making up in the form of strong will. They're very strong-willed, absolutely, and they are determined to win in Ukraine. They see this as an existential threat to Russia. Andy has a comment here. He said, so glad I didn't go to bed. Sharing, catching up. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much for joining. So it's interesting. I was going to actually podcast earlier, but I had a number of things going on. I was going to podcast actually live stream on Tuesday, but I picked up this sickness. As you can hear, I'm a little stuffy, but I'm doing okay. I'm hanging in there. But I'm going to run this here, and what I'll do is it'll be replayed tomorrow, so people will pick it up tomorrow. That's usually what happens over the next few days. But I was itching to talk about this stuff because there's a lot of stuff going on in Russia, or in particular in Ukraine, regarding Russia, NATO, and the West. And these are things that have the ability to impact us, and they are impacting us around the world. These are very significant goings on right now. And so basically, Joe Biden, the big guy. So let me go ahead and pull up the next article here. This is actually pretty interesting. Okay, best predictor. So this is Trump here. We got Trump. Biden's brain is broke. So let's listen to Joe Biden here. This is actually pretty interesting. This is one of our members for the Underground Conservatives, Ron Labate, actually posted this. And let's play this here. Let me see if I can get some sound on this. I think I can.
Before Russia attacked, we made sure Russia had javelins and other weapons to strengthen the defenses so Ukraine was ready for whatever happened. Before Russia attacked, we made sure Russia had javelins and other weapons to strengthen the defenses so Ukraine was ready for whatever happened.
Okay, he said before Russia attacked, we made certain that Russia had defensive weapons. So he's mixing up the countries of Russia and Ukraine in the same sentence. Okay, this is Joe Biden. Andy has another comment. He says, yes, I've been deathly ill since Sunday. Wow, okay. J.D. Vance, okay. Oh my gosh, Senate endorsement of Trump. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. Yeah, that is right. Yeah, J.D. Vance, Senate endorsement of Trump. Yep, I was following that. That's pretty cool stuff. Yeah, I hope you're okay with your illness too. I do not have COVID. I already had COVID. Apparently, according to the CDC, they finally admitted if you have had COVID, you have a less likelihood of getting it again, a greater defensiveness than if you were to take the vaccine. They say if you take the vaccine, you have, I think it's a 11% less likelihood. Actually, I'm sorry, it's a 22% less likelihood of getting the virus again. If you have natural immunity, you have a 55% less likelihood of getting the virus again. So there's a much greater defense or protection when you have had the virus already. So I've already had it, but I got a different bug now. And you know what I'm taking? I'm taking this, actually, you might find this interesting. I'm taking this, it's called Immune Boost, and it is loaded with stuff. This is actually a product of ours. I had actually developed this a while ago. If you guys are interested, I'll leave a link here. And so we still got some bottles left. And so it has quercetin, it protects your lungs. It has NAC, helps dilate the airways. It has vitamin D. It's packed with vitamin D, all of the anti-COVID, antiviral stuff, tons of zinc. It's got turmeric, anti-inflammatory, protects lungs and what have you. Great stuff. I'm taking this. I got sick on Sunday, and I'm doing a lot better today. So I worked out today. I was doing good. We're totally against any vaccine. That's right. Me too. Me too, buddy. There are vaccines, and then there are experimental vaccines. I'm against experimental vaccines. And that's what's going on. We know that. I know you guys. So if you're interested, I'll leave a link for that. Andy, I'll actually copy you later on this. This is great stuff. A friend of mine, a pastor friend of mine in Texas, keeps ordering this stuff. He's ordered us a bunch of bottles and actually threw some extra in for him. My wife did. They've ordered, him and his wife have ordered a ton of these. You're welcome. And they ordered 2 recently. And I told her, I said, they keep ordering. They're good people. They're great people. And I've known them for years. I said, just throw 5 bottles in there. So she threw 5 bottles in the packet. And then she emailed my wife. She's like, I think you sent us too many. And my wife's like, no, don't worry about it. We appreciate you, your business and, you purchasing those from us. And so here you go. And so, anyway, I'll put a link up here for the Immune Boost. Great stuff. Super, super, potent stuff. So anyway, let's go back to Sleepy Joe Biden and let's see what he has got going on. There was another link I wanted to play. Here we go. That's actually my son and I today. We were running on the trail, and you're going to laugh because you're seeing us wear masks. Now, we wore masks. And it's funny because all the liberals were like, oh, hey, guys, how are you? They were happy to see us. They thought we were really cool. We look like Antifa, right? Don't we, back here? Some of the ones with the hair out to here, all the different dreadlocks are like, oh, yeah. So they didn't realize we both have our sickness. And when we ran, our noses were burning. They're like on fire. You know how it is. You try and work out when you're sick, your throat burns, your nose burns, but the circulation of your immune cells throughout your body, as long as the exercise isn't too intense, is actually very therapeutic and can help you fight the sickness. So we went real easy on the trail, but we covered our faces to protect from any pollen, that kind of stuff getting in, and our nose is burning. So, but yeah, the liberals liked us on the trail. So yeah, please do share the link. I will post that in a moment. Yeah, there's us when we took our masks off. And so, but that was just to protect our noses because it was burning. But yeah, let me go ahead and pull this other one up. This is actually pretty interesting. This is a link here. I'm gonna see. It's a little ad first. This is Joe Biden.
I think that so much is writing right now that somebody that's running for office before you have the election, I think you have to take a test and you have to be sharp. When I look at what you're dealing with, I know them all, I know every leader, they're at the top of their games. I mean, some are nice, some aren't nice, some are vicious, and they're all smart. And you cannot be like we are now. This war in Ukraine should have never happened. And I decided to take one because the fake news was having fun no matter what you did. And I took one, and it was an amazing thing. They now call me a dictator and other things, but they don't call you stupid because I aced it. And you gotta ace it, you gotta do well. If you're gonna be president, and the Chinese system, you start from very young, and it's like a big pyramid. And the smartest guy gets to the top. It's sort of an amazing system, okay? Nothing I recommend strongly, but you're dealing with these people that are top of the world, top of the game. And I watched what happened in Europe, and I watched the decisions that I made, and you watch the news conferences, and this country's going to hell, just so you understand, this country's going to hell. No, I think having a test is a very good idea.
Mm-hmm. And mentally unfit, you don't want to judge.
I don't want to say it, let them take a test. These tests are good. They've done for 100 years, and they have them down to a science. I mean, they're good. And they're not easy. You have to be sharp. And people that are in that position have to be sharp.
Well, Donald Trump has weighed in on why Joe Biden should take a cognitive test. Republicans and overall critics of the president believe he is not mentally fit to run the country, citing numerous gaffes and mess-ups as examples. In 2018, then President Donald Trump took a cognitive test to prove he was mentally fit, despite facing increased criticism that he wasn't. He passed the test, with then White House physician Ronnie Jackson fronting the media to share his results. In an interview with CBN's David Brody, he asked Mr. Trump whether he believes Joe Biden is mentally fit for office and whether the 25th Amendment should be invoked. Donald Trump makes the point that before you are even elected, when you're actually in the midst of the campaign, you should have to take a cognitive exam. He continues, pointing out that he knows all the world leaders and they are all at the top of their game.
So that's pretty interesting. Trump chiming in there, he's right. He had to take a test, a cognitive test. And Joe Biden should have to take a cognitive test also. And so the reasons that the left were on Trump to take a cognitive test are so much less substantiated and substantial than the reasons why Joe Biden should take a cognitive test. And you don't hear any of them, like Jim Acosta and these different guys, these extreme leftists, saying that Joe Biden should take this test. Well, Joe Biden, not only is he looking like he doesn't know what he's doing, he's actually putting our country at risk. And you're dealing with now international conflicts with nuclear armed countries such as Russia. He's making comments, making it sound like we might be sending in troops. He said, for example, to, I think it was the 82nd Airborne, he said, when you guys go to Ukraine, you'll see what it looks like, what those people are like, as if he's sending our troops into Ukraine, which obviously would trigger probably World War III, right? So Joe Biden is making these cognitive errors, and it's putting our country at greater risk. And this is extremely dangerous. And so what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to show you actually some footage. This was actually really interesting, where Joe Biden is acting very different from one point in time to another. Let me see if this is brain broke, gaffe after gaffe. Let me see if we've got this here. This is Tulsi talking with...
former Democratic Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard is with us. How do you feel? I think it's...
Anyone
with
all will take a stand.
There we go. The former general.
Let me turn this on again. Okay, so this is Tulsi Gabbard, and she's on Hannity, and then we've got Hannity
former
talking
Democratic
about
Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard.
Fast forward it.
How do you feel? I think it's... How do you feel about the Ministry of Truth?
So this is Joe Biden as he has changed over the years. And you can see some dramatic changes in the more recent years. There is something seriously wrong with Joe. And for us to deny that is for us to lie, pretty much. To lie to ourselves, to lie to others, and to put our country in potentially a perilous situation. How many decisions could have been made that would have been a more efficient or effective decision if we had had a more competent president who was cognitively sound? Let's see what he has put together.
12 and 16. And then I have a question on the other side.
In our bilateral relationships with nations with whom we deal and have serious trade deficits, we have to be willing to put more cards on the table.
Now they got a new plan. Trust me, it's not going to cost you any more. Folks, follow your instincts on this one. They put one foot in front of the other. They keep going. That's the unbreakable spirit of the people of America. We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by go. You know the thing. I want to thank the former general. I keep calling him general, but the guy who runs that outfit over there.
I know you probably don't want this question. You're a Democratic Party member. Do you see a precipitous cognitive decline in Joe Biden?
I think it's distressing, Sean, to see that. I think that it's important that as we look at what you've just played out and what you're seeing is that we not just focus on Joe Biden, but that we actually, which is really kind of a distraction away from, to me, what is the more serious issue here, which is it's clear that Joe Biden's the front man. and that there is the permanent Washington establishment behind the curtains that are pulling the strings. You know, I don't believe that Joe Biden came up with this department of propaganda. There are other people in this permanent Washington establishment who are calling the shots, who are making the decisions that have a very real impact, negative impact on our democracy and on our freedom. And it's important for us as the American people to see very clearly what's happening, not allow them to distract us, and stand up strongly against it in defense of our country and our Constitution and our freedom.
I would like to see the cognitive test. I get asked a lot of questions about you because you are...
So that's that. That
The
was
safest
actually...
travel bag is the one thieves can't even see.
That was Tulsi Gabbard commenting on Joe Biden, and they showed in chronological order a very different Joe Biden. The way he looked, the way he presented himself. He actually at times looked like a different person. It was incredible. He has lost his ability to speak clearly, to contain thoughts, to link conversations and statements. It's amazing. He's always been a proven liar, but now he is a liar who is incompetent. He cannot link his lies together. He cannot defend his lies because he has lost his cognitive ability. So it's really bad. He's basically dishonest and incompetent. It's a horrible situation. And I think she's right. He's being run by a group of rogue actors, advisors. So let's see what this one is. Let me see.
That will enhance our underlying effort.
Let me just get this straight here. Okay.
That will enhance our underlying effort to accommodate the Russian oligarchs and make sure we take their ill-begotten gains. We're going to accommodate them. We're going to seize their yachts, their luxury homes, and other ill-begotten gains of Putin's kleptocracy. Kleptocracy. The guys who are the kleptocracy.
This was the worst one I've seen.
These are bad guys.
Well, it's happened again.
Wow.
Joe Biden has suffered yet another blunder while giving a speech. This one, probably one of his worst. He was announcing a new $33 billion spending package to provide aid to Ukraine when he was also attempting to condemn Russia for its attack on the country. The president stumbled over his words as he vowed to seize Russian oligarchs' assets before laughing and calling Putin's army bad guys. As per usual, the mumbling moment had social media users talking. One person wrote, "Cringeworthy Biden, so embarrassing watching this," and he chuckles, "Nothing funny here, Joe." Another said, "The President of the United States clearly is suffering from advanced cognitive decline, and the mainstream news media that carries water for the Dems remains as silent as a cemetery on a moonless midnight." And just wow, he shouldn't be on the world stage representing the nation. Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton simply wrote, "Alarming." Congressman Ronnie Jackson said, "What is Biden talking about here? He's totally lost. His cognitive decline is so obvious, and America is suffering because of it. This is an embarrassment." Former White House Deputy Chief of Staff Karl Rove told Fox News that these gaffes are not helpful when the US needs to be showing strength in the face of Russia.
Painful to watch, difficult to hear, and no, it's not helpful at a moment that we need to project strength and consistency. Obviously, nobody ran that speech by him so that he would say, you know, that's an uncomfortable word for me. Can you find out another way to say that?
Kleptocracy.
Let's hope it doesn't matter much. But Putin is looking at us, not just because of words spoken, but more importantly because of past actions. They led to this miscalculation on February 24th when he invaded Ukraine. Lots of mistakes made. The president's done pretty well since this crisis began, but this was not a helpful moment at all.
It comes less than a week after Joe Biden flew to Seattle to speak about the environment when he whispered into the microphone before suddenly starting to scream.
By the way, I made it clear to my friends up in Nantucket in that area, I don't want to hear any more about you don't like looking at them. They're pretty. But seriously, it's incredible the breakthroughs that they're making. Once you tell a nation that we can do this, go do it, it's amazing what happens.
The president has been criticised repeatedly for either making numerous gaffes while making presidential addresses or refusing to take questions from reporters in case he goes off script, which he did the other day when he admitted to not using the speech his staff wrote.
I remember I was talking on the way over. My staff's going, "Why aren't you giving the speech we wrote?"
Gosh, incredible. Yeah, so Joe Biden is, I mean, he's worse than ever. It is not looking good. It's very unfortunate, and it's unfortunate for the American public. We thought we were voting in a fair and honest election that actually depicted the candidates for who they really were. But unfortunately, one candidate had a number of weaknesses and deficiencies hidden from the American public. That in itself should be something that should be investigated, in my opinion. Never should a candidate be able to hide from the public their mental or physical deficiencies that may impact their ability to lead the country. And that is the situation we are in now. Is it a mistake? Is it a coincidence? Or is it by design? It appears that for many, it perhaps was by design. And I say many, I'm not talking about millions of people. I'm talking about a handful of advisors in Washington, left-wing advisors who are woke, who believe in redefining a number of components of the American culture, such as redefining the family, such as redefining audit all 50 states. We do need to audit all 50 states. You're exactly right, Andy. And so you're talking about trying to redefine gender bathroom, the genders of the bathrooms, redefining who can participate in men's or women's sports, redefining our border. And so you're talking about redefining our military and trying to take our military and, in many ways, neuter them, to make them weaker, to make them less strong and less ambitious, if you will, less patriarchal. And so being patriarchal for our military and for our country hasn't been a bad thing. Matter of fact, it's been a great thing over the years. It's protected our country. It is a biblical component, a patriarchy. So most of us in our country think that's a good thing. So to take that and all of a sudden scrap those things is very controversial. And it is something that only, again, a small handful of woke advisors can pull off when you have this puppet of a president named Joe Biden. Incredible stuff, guys. Absolutely incredible. So let's go on here. There is another one or two articles I wanted to refer to. And so these are the things, right? I mean, this is a joke, but it's not a joke, right? If you look at this, right? So, this is a meme. It's on our Underground Conservatives page. One of our members posted it. It's a great little kind of funny, but it's also kind of scary, right? It's a meme. It says the doctor's talking to a pregnant lady, and she says, "Is it a boy or a girl?" And he says, "Well, we'll let the kindergarten teacher decide." And that's pretty much what's going on in many instances. They are letting the woke educators decide if someone is going to cast themselves and present themselves as a boy or a girl. That is not a matter for debate. That is a matter of biology and a matter of, as the left used to say, they don't say it anymore, following the science. The science is such that it's either a boy or a girl. And so if that is not the case, then these guys are playing God. They think they can be God. And last I checked, they're not perfect. They're not God. They need to let science determine if it's a boy or a girl. So this is a problem. We're not living with a group of people who want science to advance. They want to advance their agenda and use science to advance it. So this is the situation we're in. Let's go ahead and go a little further down here. We've got a number of other items. Let's see here. Everyone knows there's something wrong with Joe Biden. So the last few things I wanted to cover was this. We've got Russia, who warned Ukraine against provoking World War III. And so in doing so, what we're going to do is I'm going to actually look at that just briefly, and then we'll break things down and we'll start to wind it down. And so, so Russia's warning against provoking World War III. Russia's top diplomat warned Ukraine against provoking World War III and said that the threat of a nuclear conflict should not be underestimated, as his country unleashed attacks against rail and fuel installations far from the front lines of Moscow's new eastern offensive. Meanwhile, the British Defense Ministry said on Tuesday that Russian forces had indeed taken the Ukrainian city of Crimea in the Luhansk region after days of street-to-street fighting. The city of Crimea has reportedly fallen, and heavy fighting is reported south of Izium as Russian forces attempt to advance towards the cities of Sloyansk and Kramatorsk from the north and the east. The British military said in a tweet. It did not say how it knew that the city, again 355 miles southeast of the Ukrainian capital of Kiev, had fallen, but the Ukrainian government did not immediately comment either. The U.S. has been rushing more weaponry to Ukraine, and said the assistance from Western allies is making a difference in the 2-month-old war. My question is, how dishonest is the U.S. administration being? Because they're saying these weapons are making a difference. Yes, they are making a difference. They are taking the war that may have been a shorter war, and they are expanding the duration of the war. They are expanding the scope of the war. They are making it a sure thing that the war is going to cause more death, not just death of Russian soldiers, but death of Ukrainian soldiers and death of Ukrainian civilians. I am estimating by the numbers that I've researched that there probably have been multiple hundreds of thousands of people who have lost their lives in Ukraine. This is a problem. This is a concern. So, why would the U.S. continue to pour fuel on the fire in Ukraine? Well, it's interesting. Do they have ulterior motives? Are their motives greater than the protection of the people of Ukraine? Well, it looks like they say their motives are to weaken Russia. Okay, you want to weaken Russia? Okay, you're just going to create a Cold War that's going to last another 10 to 20 years. It would be nice to not have to have a Cold War on and on and on. I mean, we ended the Cold War, right? Reagan did, okay, by being strong, not taking us to war, right, a real war, by having a strong military and negotiating with strength, okay, negotiating in an assertive manner and in a resolute manner, something that Trump does when he negotiates. The U.S. didn't get involved in wars when Trump was in office. They didn't get in wars at all. Matter of fact, we retaliated at times to actions that we didn't feel that were correct, but we were not involved in putting troops everywhere in the world and trying to be the world's policeman and drawing Russia into a conflict. No, we weren't. Russia didn't want to battle us when Trump was in the presidency. But now Biden's in and Russia wants to go to war with us, or at least Russia wants to go on these adventures and take different pieces of land that they think is going to give them a greater security buffer. Well, maybe they will, maybe they won't. They probably will give them greater security. And the U.S. wants to battle Russia through Ukraine under the Sleepy Joe Biden administration. I think this is dishonest when the U.S. says that we can win the war. I've heard, matter of fact, I think it was the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd, said that we can win this war, that Ukraine can win the war. And then as you read some of the notes that took place behind the scenes, they went on to say, furthermore, that time is not on the side of the Ukrainians. The longer this war goes on, the more it's become certain that Russia will win and gain what they achieved to gain from the beginning. Russia is trying to create a buffer between itself and the West. They do not want the spread of NATO any closer to the borders of Russia. So it looks as if Russia is probably going to pursue... let me see if we can zoom in here. I don't think I'm going to be able to zoom in here that well. They want to basically gather a piece of land. You've got Ukraine here. You've got Turkey here. You've got Turkey is right here, okay? And so you've got Ukraine up in this area here, okay? And so you've got Russia, who is trying to gather a buffer, and they're trying to cut Ukraine off from the sea, from the ocean. So Russia wants all access to any oceanfront land in Ukraine, and that's probably what they're going to gain. And in doing so, they will also gain a very fertile land in and near southern Ukraine. Southern Ukraine is very fertile. It feeds much of Europe, its grains and what have you. It has a number of other natural resources, and it will be a valuable piece of land to hold on to for Russia. And there are a number of Russians that are in that part of southern Ukraine and eastern Ukraine. So in that sense, there is a reason maybe for them to claim that that country or that part of the country should be supportive of Russians. And there have been a number of claims from Russia, true or not, probably some of them are true, that Russians have been targeted for attacks before the war started by Ukrainian government and other Ukrainian militants. And so Russia felt they wanted to act, and they saw Joe Biden had been weak in his execution of the withdrawal from Afghanistan, and they said now is the time to act. And that's what they've done. They've acted. And as a result, they are going to battle until they've achieved their objective. Russia sees this as an existential threat. Ukraine sees it as an existential threat, but Russia has more weapons, they have more troops, and they have nuclear weapons. As a result, and even though we're pumping in weapons to Ukraine, they're going to run out of people to be able to use those weapons. And Russia, all they have to do is become more indiscriminate with their bombings, and they can use larger bombs. And eventually, if they want to, they can even use tactical nuclear weapons, which would most likely end the war very fast. Russia has refrained from doing this. They've wanted to minimize civilian casualties, and it doesn't maybe seem like that because the West isn't proposing or presenting it as such, but that has been the case. Otherwise, the war would have ended much sooner. They could have bombed Kiev into the Stone Age, but they didn't. They spared a number of civilians, and they also spared diplomats as well, too. And Russia recently said, we don't have to spare diplomats because the leader of the U.S. military, that is Secretary of Defense, Lloyd, said that they want to see Russia weakened and hurt after this. And Russia took strong offense to that, naturally, and said, well, if you guys continue to arm Ukraine with your weapons, and matter of fact, a UK foreign minister also said that they recommended that Ukraine would strike and attack inside of Russia's borders with British weapons. And so the Russian minister responded and said Russia in general responded and said, look, we don't have to restrain ourselves when you guys send your diplomats to Ukraine. We may bomb when they are in Kiev. And as a result, Lloyd, when he visits, because he's visited, Blinken, they might not be safe. And as a result, they might get taken out if they continue to try to expand this conflict. It'll be interesting to see what goes on next in this ongoing conflict. My hope and prayer is this is not the start of World War III, but you have to understand this. World War III also was a war that was started or could be started already. World War II was started. The hostilities began in approximately 1938. The initial attacks started. Germany had lashed out into Poland and some other countries, and Italy had gone into northern Africa. World War II had started well before the U.S. got involved, and finally the U.S. got involved, and I think it was December 7th, 1941, when we were attacked. That was a just war that the United States was involved with. To get involved with Ukraine, I don't believe is a just war for us. We have a southern border that is porous. We have people who are members of MS-13 who are penetrating our border into our country as we speak. We have our country that has lost its national integrity from a border standpoint. We need to restore our border first before we send billions of dollars to Ukraine. We need to send funding to American businesses who we forcibly shut down during COVID, telling them they cannot operate. And as a result, they have sustained multi-billions of dollars in losses collectively. We need to send funding to those people first and not Ukraine. I sympathize with the Ukrainian people, the women, the children, and the men who are being attacked ruthlessly. But I'm an American first. We need to protect our homeland. We need to get back to America first. That's what our country was founded on. And this imposter of a President Joe Biden has tried to steer us away from those fundamentals and destroy what it means to be an American. We are going to fight back, guys. We are going to battle back. We are going to work to throw these liars out of office by vote. Looking forward to that time. Take care. God bless. We'll see you next time, guys.